Well, welcome to this week's online worship. This week I'm multitasking. I'm going for a run in a minute, and I just thought while I'm introducing this week's online worship, I'll do some warm-ups and get myself ready for the run. Because we're talking this week about getting fit, about spiritual discipline, about exerting some sweat in our journey with Jesus. But first of all, we're going to listen to a message from Colonel Dean Pallant. It talks about the Big Collection, an event every year that every corps does in raising money for the social and community work of the Salvation Army.
Hello from the Salvation Army's headquarters in London. Last year, you raised an amazing £1.2 million for the Big Collection, and I want to thank you for all your incredible hard work. We could not have foreseen then what lay ahead of us this year with the coronavirus, but the money you have raised has helped us keep going.
When lockdown measures were introduced, the Salvation Army immediately began adapting its work so the most vulnerable people were being supported.
Thank you.
Salvation Army officers, staff and volunteers have all been responding to the needs of the people around them. Salvation Army lifehouses provide shelter for homeless people in places like Sheffield. They were quick to use their pandemic planning to help keep people safe.
We've created an isolation wing, so we've taken one area of the building and we've ring-fenced that for anybody who needs to self-isolate. All of those rooms are en-suite rooms, so they can stay in that room, they can keep safe, and we're taking their food up for them.
At Booth House in Swindon, residents have been helping out with a bit of painting.
The guys are being really creative in the ways that they can keep themselves busy. So some of the guys went out last weekend and they painted all the benches, they de-weeded everywhere, rearranged all the pot plants, and we're doing everything we can with activities to try and keep them as busy as normal.
Yay!
Staff at Linden House in St Albans helped Ken and Lila celebrate their 69th wedding anniversary during lockdown.
Happy anniversary, Lila.
It was scary right at the beginning, and it was, I kind of felt that we were on a mission. The mission was to keep residents safe, keep staff safe. We've been very blessed. We haven't had COVID in the home. We follow strict guidelines of hand washing, sanitising. We've really come together. We're always very together, but it's made us a very tight unit, very tight family.
Food banks very quickly saw an increase in the number of people needing supplies. Up and down the country, the Salvation Army began to expand its work. Salvation Army halls are being used as distribution hubs. At the Salvation Army in Watford, they're doing regular food parcel deliveries to some of the most needy people in the community. Mark Scolding runs the corps here.
We work in partnership with 3 local schools, and we've got a fantastic team of volunteers from there. We're all working together to make sure that the most vulnerable families in Watford are getting the help that they need.
In Barking, they're also delivering food parcels, but their main focus is the daily distributing of meals to street homeless.
During the pandemic, our numbers have doubled or tripled on some days. So we do what we can. We normally have shower facilities, a GP once a month, toilet facilities, and we take them inside if it's raining. But under these circumstances, would like to go down? Fabulous, thank you. Under these circumstances, we're just managing doing what we can, trying our best just to stay open and keep going.
People like homeless like us is still survivor. Bless you.
Take care now. Thank you. Bless him.
The Salvation Army continues its work of supporting people facing hardship, as the longer-term impact of the pandemic is felt across the UK. And it's also gearing up for another wave of poverty, as further job losses mean that families can't pay their bills, or rough sleepers struggle to feed themselves.
People deserve respect and attention and love and basic things in life. And it's really sad when you see people that don't have it. We see the need and we just want to help.
Every year, people like you go the extra mile for the big collection, and we're enormously grateful. Without your hard work, we wouldn't be able to support the most vulnerable. And this year, that includes people who've been hardest hit by the pandemic. Of course, this year's big collection has all the extra challenges of the things that we can't do, like collecting door to door. But we've been amazed by how you've already risen to that challenge and found new and creative ways to raise funds in your local area. There are some really fantastic ideas out there if you need any inspiration. And this year, there are also more ways that people can give. We've been overwhelmed by people's generosity during these difficult times. Members of the public see the need and are trusting the Salvation Army to do something to help. The money you will help raise during the big collection will enable us to go on serving where we're needed most. So thank you for what you've already done, and thank you for what you will do. You're making a world of difference. God bless you.
Well, just come back from a run. I didn't do very long actually. I was 2 minutes into my run and I remembered I forgot something. I remembered I could only run for 2 minutes. In James 2:17 we read this: faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead. We are people who are called to live the life of discipleship in our ways of godliness. It's explicit call to spiritual sweat, if you like, to put some hard work in to our journey with Jesus. Paul and Timothy. Timothy was Paul's young protege who is sent off to look after a church, and Paul would write to Timothy. And in there we read about a race, and he talks about removing all hindrances. Now of course this is the time of the Greeks, and Greek thought was very much the way of the day. And if you remember, Greek athletes performed naked. They removed all clothing so that they could run the race without hindrance. Now I'm not suggesting that we need to remove our clothes and get naked, not at all. Please hear me on that, not at all. But what I am suggesting, we need to remove every habit, every hindrance, every impedance on our walk and way of godliness. And we need to get serious. We need to be serious about running this race of faith that we're on, this journey of faith we are, and we need to invest all our energy and if you like, create some spiritual sweat on our journey with him, seeking to follow him better and to put that into action, because by itself faith without action is dead. Winston Churchill, probably the greatest orator of his time, certainly of the 20th century, once said it takes a fortnight to prepare an impromptu 5-minute speech. Now he was a great orator, but that wasn't always the way. He had issues he had to deal with. He had to get over certain things in the way he spoke. Also he crafted and worked hard at preparing his speeches, his speaking, so that when he spoke with great effect. We know that, don't we? Some of those wartime speeches he made to the House of Commons. Also, I heard a story of a very famous concert pianist, And after one performance, a woman come up and gave him a really over-the-top compliment. And he said to her in reply, "Madam, today I am a genius. Yesterday I was a drudge." In other words, he was saying he had to work hard. He had to sweat some piano sweat, if you like, in making him the concert pianist he was that day. And so the same goes for us. We need to work hard at our journey with Jesus and then to put that into action. An artist once painted a picture of Niagara Falls. I don't know if you've ever been to Niagara Falls. I haven't. It's definitely on my bucket list. It's something I want to do. But I'm told that 3,160, not pints, not gallons, but tons of water flow over Niagara Falls every second, without fail, day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out, century in, century out, thousands of years, probably millions of years. Water has cascaded over Niagara Falls at billions of gallons per second. And that's a great picture of God's grace for us, because that's what we need if we're going to run this race, if we're going to have the spiritual power to get into training and to put it into action. Paul, writing to the church in Corinth, said in 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 10, which says, "But by grace of God I am what I am, and his grace to me was not without effect. No, I worked harder than all of them, yet not I, but the grace of God that was with me." We need grace to win the race, to put the training into action. And without fail, from the windows of heaven pours God's grace, far greater than the water flowing over Niagara Falls. There is great resources available to us. In fact, there's all the resources of heaven at our aid. So you see so many athletes, they take these energy drinks, these protein drinks to build up their muscles so they improve performance. God gives us his grace. But it takes effort on our part. And I hope that you're willing to take that race, take that way, because there's great satisfaction in winning the race. There's great satisfaction in winning the match. There's great satisfaction put into action the faith which we have put some spiritual sweat into learning. And by God's grace, upon grace, to be able to do it well. May God bless you. Oh yes. And don't forget to wash your hands. And when you wash your hands, don't forget whose hand you're in.
Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much stronger? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder? The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave.